Вітаю, колеги!
Welcome, colleagues. The 119th day of the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. I'm Natalia Staroprava, and we keep on with our briefings in Ukraine Media Center. We have Oleksandra Romantsova, Executive Director of Civil Liberties Center, and we will speak about Tribunal for Putin initiative. Welcome, Oleksandra, and please tell more about this initiative and why it is important now. Welcome, colleagues. Welcome, the audience participants. Really, the initiative Tribunal for Putin was created by the uh, by the activists, and this is the large-scale tribunal for the whole vertical, Putin vertical, for the aggression now taking place in relation to Ukraine, and further probably even development of this tribunal in the retrospect. I mean, the assessment of those aggressive actions the Russian Federation has committed in relation to Syria, to South Caucasus, to Transnistria in Moldova, and a lot more gray areas like Georgia, Abkhazia, and South Ossetia, where it has caused establishment of some quasi-territories which prevent people from full-fledged development in a democratic format. That is why um, human rights activists who have got some experience of recording war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide crimes and aggression crimes since 2014 have got united to develop that database and to interact with law enforcement agencies throughout the country, which is extremely important. And this is one of the aspects of our initiative. Since we do have the representatives of organizations in all the regions of Ukraine, and they are dealing with collection of data in relation to war crimes in every specific region, and in that way, our database now has about 9,000 episodes. And for us, and this is not yet a limit, we want to collect all the stories of all the people affected, either by war crimes or by crimes against humanity or genocide crime or aggression crimes. The data is going to be used for developing certain legal formats because we um, coordinate our activity with the OSCE mechanism, with the Investigation Commission of the UN, with the European Court of Human Rights, and International Criminal Court. But this, in a way, does not cover the whole global vertical, starting with Putin as the head up to the people performing war crimes. That's why we would like to create the full-fledged tribunal um, in the UN domain, and the General Assembly of the UN will be voting for it. Every country of the world that is member of the UN will have the right to vote. So all the materials we are collecting are related to the promotion of this idea and provision of support of international societies and different countries in relation to Ukraine. And as far as both as far as weapons provision is concerned and humanitarian aid is concerned, or support of our refugees staying in their countries. We also have Ruslan Topolevskyi, NGO Center for Legal and Political Research, SIM. And here is the question to you, Ruslan. Please tell us in detail about the process of data collection and what are the barriers on the way to recording the crimes. Thank you. Welcome, dear colleagues. The issues faced by the Tribunal for Putin initiative are the issues faced by the whole society and all the citizens. These are the issues, first of all, related to collection of such information. And if you have become witnesses of war crimes and crimes against humanity, you may provide the information in the form which is on the webpage of the Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union. The very data collection process lies in the fact that we record the information which comes to be known by us from mass media, from the internet network, or is provided to us personally. But the problem also is that when we are um, observing the facts, it's not always the case that we are staying side by side with those events, and we cannot always make pictures, in particular due to the ban of photo recording of the events that we currently have. So this is one of the problems which is a sort of a barrier on the way to such photo recording, photo fixation. But as far as I know, state authorities are dealing with this fixation, with this recording, and we hope that collection of information will serve as a thread onto which we will then, on the string into which we will then put all those cases, recorded cases. And of course, the war crimes, so the crimes against humanity and the cases that are known to us in those domain are rather uh, concerning. They show that the Russian state is not going to stop committing war crimes, and the tribunal for Putin is the format in which we will try to stop those war crimes from happening. And let me invite Oleksandr Kadievsky, attorney, coordinator of reception office of the Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union in Kramatorsk. Please tell us, how do you record crimes in Donetsk region? Good morning. Right, as Ruslan has already mentioned, in Donetsk region we um, don't always have access to the places where the crimes are committed for security reasons. But anyway, we try to get to those places and to record their events, to record the damages, the destructions. And these are the destructions of civilian, administrative buildings, public buildings. We do all this, we do record all this information, and we try to record and to photograph information. We cooperate with law enforcement agencies, and currently I must tell you that there have been no cases when we were not allowed to do something. But this information definitely is not provided to some public sources. We use this information only for our database, which is a protected database, so access is limited. Just several people working with it have access to this database. As far as Donetsk region is concerned, there are several people doing the registration of crimes, and this is an absolutely right decision of the Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union. They have involved local civilians, because local civilians know their own cities even better, and even from the pictures they can find out in what the location is. We do have a question from the audience. Vasil Samokhvalov, Ukraine Media Center. So the question is simple. Thank you for saying that you cooperate with law enforcement agencies. But the question is, what should be the path, the way of your project from the stage of crime recording to reach the stage of tribunal with judges and sentences? What should be the logistic path, and who should help you, who should pass the decisions? I'm ready to answer this question. Well, we cooperate with law enforcement agencies, and this is done primarily to use the judiciary entities that we already have at the national level. And so far, at the national level, we don't have any entities that are specifically designed to respond to the war crimes and consequences of the war and the crimes under the international law. If you talk to local investigators, judges, or prosecutors, then they claim that no, we still have one paragraph in the criminal code, and we don't yet have the system in place. So the task of Ukraine is to work with its legislation to prepare it and to create the hybrid form of considering those claims at the national level. Well, the form is going to be unique for Ukraine. It is always unique because the country needs to predetermine the share of national judges to be involved and invited foreigners, and the criteria, of course, should also be set out. So we still need to develop this format, this mechanism, and we are supposed to do this by the end of next year. We are expected to get the full-fledged judiciary mechanism at the national level, which should be linked to the tribunal with which we are working at the international level. Um, not only we are working, the diplomats and the representatives of Ukraine abroad are also supporting this idea. This is a tribunal, and I hope very much that really the General Assembly of the UN, even by the end of this year, will be able to vote on the establishment of this tribunal. Uh, well, we don't know how much time will go for selection of staff and other issues, but we may accelerate the procedure because you can see that the International Criminal Court has been investigating the cases even before the so-called acute phase of the war is over. Just to compare, Georgia was waiting for 8 years um, to get clear that the International Criminal Court will start considering the crimes committed over its 6 days of war. Now, the cases in Ukraine are already being investigated. So I may not say that this will happen tomorrow, but I think that Ukraine can really affect the democratic process and development and acceleration of bureaucratic procedures related to the establishment of such tribunals. As far as organization is concerned, we have our data, then criminal proceedings shall be launched, and we should get clear about the methodology of its description because now we are following the national criteria, and only the International Criminal Court is separately working at large cases, and they are using their methodology. So any lawyer can really help us with this by taking the methodology, by taking the testimony from a person who has become victim of a war crime and provides those materials to the International Criminal Court. This is happening already now. The only thing that should be mentioned is that it will depend on the prosecutor's office as to whether they will describe all the cases going through our national judiciary should be described in terms of the International Criminal Court procedures. Another question is, I would like to clarify whether in this process we already rely on some best practices and some experience, or do we do it from scratch by opening for Ukraine and for the UN and for the world this new story of the International Tribunal? Well, we have got some experience to rely on. We have the Balkans, we have Eastern Asia helping us with this respect, and we have some samples we could uh, partially follow. But anyway, this is going to be a very unique format for Ukraine, precisely for Ukraine. And let me repeat that we are going to act as the acceleration agents. Our war has shown that unfortunately over 8 years international entities did not find any procedural and methodological responses to hybrid wars in this sort of war. So our hybrid war is not the only one, and we've got more than 35 conflicts across the globe of the same format. Almost all conflicts are now hybrid and they combine military information and economic issues. So on the one hand, we do have best practices to rely on, and even the mistakes Ukraine should not repeat. So we have the list of those mistakes we should not repeat on the one hand, but on the other hand, this will anyway is going to be a unique form for Ukraine. Here is another question: who will be responsible for the crimes in Ukraine, and how will punishment be imposed and enforced? So all those present can give their answers. So if we speak about responsibility, practice shows that unfortunately only the, the top level generals and upwards can be brought to account. And the experience of Croatia shows that ministers of foreign affairs evade this responsibility, and propaganda actors also avoid it. There is the case of the Nuremberg trial where propaganda actors fomenting the hatred and war were also brought to account. But the whole point is about the armed forces of Ukraine. So let's trust in the armed forces of Ukraine. Oleksandra, anything to add? Yeah, let me add that this is why we want to get the tribunal, because International Criminal Court really focuses on big fish, on commanders, on presidents, and high-profile field commanders. Um, that is why they exist for, and taken into account the fact that Ukraine has not ratified the Rome Statute and is not paying any fee to the budget. So, of course, it's not quite good, but we are actually having investigations going on in the expense of other countries. So they are just saying the top rank officials. And that's why we would like to have a full-fledged tribunal over all those responsible. And this tribunal may pass a decision that, for example, all the soldiers who were involved in a certain battle on a certain date in a specific place would bear a specific form of responsibility. For example, they will never be entitled to participate in some international missions. They cannot do any military business in other countries. So there could be some hypothetical decision, because Ukraine is going to be a precedent. It is for the first time that Ukraine will give answers to such global conflicts. Thank you. So this is Oleksandra Romantsova, Executive Director of the Center for Civil Liberties, Ruslan Topolevskyi, NGO Center for Legal and Political Research, SIM, and Oleksandr Kadievskyi, Attorney, Coordinator of Kramatorsk's Reception Office of the Ukrainian Helsinki Human Rights Union from Kramatorsk. Thank you for this talk, and at 1 we will have a talk to Natalia Homanyuk.